Hello. Hello everyone, my name is Franklin Eduardo Niño Silva. This is my presentation for the Applied Linguistics first term exam. And in this case, it's the Applied Linguistics and Error Analysis process. I have broken down this presentation into parts. The first part is going to be more related to the linguistics and its branches, applied, and error analysis. And the second part is going to be more about the error analysis process, which it relates to the corpus that I have chosen. But let's begin with linguistics. What is linguistics? Linguistics is the analysis of aspects such as meaning, form, and context of language, and language is a whole. It's an idiom. In this case, we need to take into account that those aspects are related to branches, and those branches we are starting with phonetics, which describes how speech sounds are produced by the vocal apparatus. And how do we identify them? In this case, we have the table about the alphabetical API phonetical transcription, and we can see about here. And syntax describe how do we combine phrases and clauses to make sentences, just like I like chocolate, subject, verb, complement. Semantics, it focuses on how sequences of language are matched with the proper meanings and place in certain environments. Words in English have different meanings. In this case, we do not combine word with the right context and setting. It will mean something different. Morphology. We have the morphology is the study of units of meaning called morphemes and their possible combinations to form words, just as unreadable, unthinkable, unimaginable. We use the prefix on, the suffix able, and then there is a word. Phonology is related to phonetics, but phonology is more related to the practical way that we use our vocal apparatus. In this case, how do we gesticulate? How do we use our mouth to produce those sounds to be understood in that grammar rule? Pragmatics are the combination and the use all of those aspects, and even so is related to semantics also. In this case, how do we use it in a certain context or setting? Some cases, just like if we talk in a formal register in an informal setting, it's going to be weird. It's going to be a failure of pragmatics. There are also some other branches, as sociolinguistic, computational, psycholinguistics, comparative, historical, and stylistics that are related to how society affects the language, how the language is taken in the computational programming field, how it is taken in a psychological process of coding, and how do our brain process in language, how do we compare them to the same origin, the historical origin, how do we compare them to the nobody's, how it is nobody's, and the statistics, how do we use our tone style of speaking language, of speaking competencies and written competencies, and how it changes. Now we continue with applied linguistics. In this case, applied linguistics is more related to the sociolinguistics and psycholinguistics, to the idea of create theories that should help to teaching strategies in cases of second language learners and foreign language learners. And in those cases, we need to take into account the term interlanguage. Interlanguage is just how the systematic knowledge that we have is independent from the systematic knowledge of the other language that we are learning, just as second language or foreign language. Now we continue with error analysis. Error analysis is the process of determining the incidence, nature, causes, or consequences of an unsuccessful language. Just as we need to take into account that error and mistake are two separate things, but they are common in error analysis. How? Well, error is more technical. It is more due to lack of knowledge, and mistake is due to external or internal causes. In some cases, a mistake is by knowing something, but anxiety or nervousness, it affects how do we apply and how do we use the language. Now, we need to take into account also the classification of errors, interlanguage and interlingual errors. Interlingual is the interference of a native language with the second language or foreign language. And interlingual errors are more like the errors or the mistakes made by the knowledge of applying the rules, or the set of rules in that target language. Now we make a division of this presentation, which is the second part. Now we go to the second part, which is the error analysis process, and we start by the corpus. I have taken the file number 4, which is a summary about the Sensorama. And I should state that I haven't been provided with the level of the student who have made this test. In this case, I do not know the text, and I have only assumed, and this is speculation, from the mistakes and errors that the student had in this document. I assume it is a learner from level A2. And now the error analysis grid. My process of this analysis of this text. First of all, I divided the text in 6 lines, which was the length of this document. And I started by identifying the errors, which is summary, Sensorama, some of them were related to how do we write proper names, how do we formulate a word, some words in English, not in Spanish. And some of them were really divided really separated from the text, because they interrupted the understanding, interrupted the meaning of the document at the end. So some of them were hard to understand and to reformulate. Now I corrected them, some of them, and also I proposed to identify them if they were mistake, if they were error in some cases, such as proper names. Sometimes it is considered that they are errors due to lack of knowledge, due to lack of to know the real information or all the information of the real names or how to write them. In mistakes, I put some of them just as how would we say in terms the combination of Spanish terms or Spanish words in English, which is bad, which is a language transfer, an interlingual error, or an interlingual mistake, which just as an example could be capsule time. In Spanish we say cápsula de tiempo, which is good, but in English we need to take into account that it is not the same. That's why I suggested in remediations and metalinguistic feedback, which is giving the student not entirely the exact mistake that he made, but giving information and feedback about how do we use expressions or words that are different in English more than in our native language. I continue with the source of error. If they were intralingual or interlingual, some of them were easy to identify the word language transfer or inaccurate and incomplete education in some cases. Some of them I really see and can assume about the mistakes of errors that some of those mistakes were made by anxiety or due to lack of time or due to lack of time or also nervousness. Sometimes it makes the students to commit those mistakes, those orthographic and grammar mistakes, and sometimes some syntax mistakes. What else? Remediations. Most of them I recommended explicit corrections because they were grammar or syntax or orthographic. But I have an exception for the sixth one, which is means, and I quote, sixth line, Homer puts means to Bart. There is no correlation to the document at all. There is a lack of idea. Maybe the student didn't finish that idea and left it all incomplete. That's why in remediation, I really suggest a clarification request to the student, which is to identify or to reformulate that sentence because it doesn't make sense, and also it interrupts the understanding of a document. Well, that will be all. Thank you for listening to me and to seeing my process, which it has been difficult and also entertaining because it was really eventful and really new. It was a new experience for me. Thank you. Thanks.